Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everybody. So here we are, a couple of days after the election results are in, and people are still reeling from that. Not talking politics here. If that's where you came here, then be advised. That's not what we're here for. But what we are talking about is how something external can affect everybody in the world and what we're feeling and feeding off of others and that energy. How do we deal with that? How do we deal with that anxiety? I'm looking on social feeds now of friends and despair. It's like I just want to stay in bed. I want to hide. Let's talk about that. And she's experiencing it with her clients. She's an amazing psychologist, and Dr. Ann Creekmore is back with us. Great author too, by the way. Welcome. How are you?
Good, Steve. How are you?
I'm good. I'm not affected by what's going on, but let me change that. I'm not affected by what's going on, but I am affected by how others are affected. And I'm not, it's
Yeah,
the truth.
yeah,
Like, when you talk to friends and they're like, and you're like, what do I do? What do I say? But energetically, it can bring you down. Are you hearing this by and large?
absolutely, absolutely. It's, every client's coming in, and talking about, their feelings. And so, yes, I get what you're saying. But you seem like you're being, you're a great role model. I'd love to hear from you to start of how we cope, because you're saying it's not affecting you. You're doing okay. And but it affects you when you hear and you want to be there for others. What is it, that you're doing that's keeping you so well emotionally regulated, right?
You are such a psychologist because you have this way of just
Uh-oh, I'm so sorry.
throwing it over. I don't care. I'm fine, but I love the way you do that. You just kind of throw it my way, and
Oh,
I I don't get deep into politics. I don't choose to. And in whoever got elected or gets elected, you can only do so much. You can cast your vote, but you can't control that other stuff. You can only control the way you react. So
right,
why do you want to go down the rabbit hole of negativity and despair? You flip it around and hope for the best.
absolutely.
Right? The candidate that we have, look at some of the, and again, I'm not saying, for or against, I'm looking at
Right. We're not
history,
talking politics.
were there some good things there? And if the other candidate was elected, it's an unknown, but some of them, um, if they were elected, where could be the good points? But short of that, I think it comes down to the fundamental thought of you only can control so much. So,
Right,
and the thing you can control is how you react to it. So
right,
if you want to
exactly.
wallow for weeks in the situation, then go. If you want to celebrate, then that's your choice as well. But that's where I look at it. And when friends,
Yes,
come at me for one candidate or the other, I kind of let it deflect, let them say their piece,
right,
but I don't engage, and that's how I roll.
right, right. And it's all about self-resilience and how you run your own life and your own thoughts and keeping yourself at an inner peace. And coming from that place is always going to create a much better outcome for yourself. Yeah, and like you mentioned, I mean, there's no guilt. You only have one vote. I mean, it's not like if it didn't, work, that you're feeling some grief about your candidate not being elected. Then it's okay to grieve. And anger is a part of grief. It's a third phase of grief, and guilt is anger turned inward. So, if you start to feel guilty or if you start to feel despairing, that's, okay, grieve, like take that time on anything that you feel a loss about and
Hmm.
then let it out. And then you'll get to the place of acceptance. But always, like you said, you go back to it's really about you being okay and knowing you're okay and you're connected to good, to source, to that inner peace, and that you can always just go back there. That's where you want to be and create from in creating your life.
I I'm glad you said that because now, I cut some understanding and slack here that people who were unhappy with the election results are grieving. And I never thought of it. I
Correct.
never thought of
Correct.
it that way. And what do you
Yes.
do when you grieve? You have to express it and move through it.
Right.
Hmm.
There's like 90 toxins in sad tears, according to research, compared to 10 in happy tears. So when you cry, you're actually not just emotionally releasing, but you're physically, chemically cleansing as well. And you go
Hmm.
through a process of just releasing it and then getting yourself to that acceptance. And when you get to that, some good things come into your mind and you start moving again into rebuilding. That's a grief process for anything. Yeah.
Hmm. When it comes to being affected by things around us, and doesn't have to be the election, could be the hurricanes. You know,
Right.
we're not. Let's say you're 2,000 miles away. It's not affecting you, but in some way, knowing about it, seeing the visual, the video, isn't it affecting you?
Absolutely. Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. And you were saying that about yourself, where you were saying that when people are talking to you now, that is affects you. You may stay resilient on the election, but when others are, talking a lot about it and upset, that affects you. Do you want to share anything? Back to being a psychologist again, go figure. But would you like to share how that's going for you and what your strategies are, since you are so resilient? You're a great role model. When Now that you understand too, they're grieving, that you can kind of, because it's like, it's always put yourself in the other person's shoes. How would you feel in that situation? And how would you like to be treated in that situation? And I'm sure
Hmm.
you do treat them, your friends, lovingly when they're going through whatever they're going through. But
Absolutely. But
mhm,
I will say this, and it was a situation where I am 2 months ago, like 2.5 months ago, big storm rolled through, and
mhm,
this huge pond, big, big, big pond, been there for many, many, many years, decades and decades and decades. I brought my children there, to feed the ducks and just enjoy it. Others have. I mean, it's just a beautiful area. Well, the road next to it buckled, and it served as a dam. All the water from this huge pond all went back into the harbor or the sound where we are.
oh
There was
wow.
nothing
Mm.
left in the pond
Oh,
except these fish that have been there for 50 years, huge,
oh,
just
mm,
floundering in the mud.
mm,
And then
mm,
you get the
yeah,
wildlife and all of that.
mm,
Just,
mm.
I'm going to say I was sad.
Sorry.
I was,
Yes,
j-
absolutely.
I was sad, and it didn't go
Mhm.
away. Like every time I see the images, I just like, oh my gosh, I just can't believe. And it's life, hurricane, whatever. Fortunately, there weren't any homes. Home, they weren't destroyed, but there was one that's going to need some rebuilding of the land and all of that nearby. But I talked about this with somebody, and many people on in our area on social media expressed a lot of what I expressed. And I talked to somebody about it, and I said, "Man, can you believe it?" And they're in the area, they took their kids, all of that, and
Sure.
and and they said to me, "Really? What are you, like a tree hugger? Come on!" And I'm like,
Not very sympathetic, empathic. Yeah.
um,
Mhm.
I didn't judge, but honestly, I just shut them off. I
Mhm.
like, I call it the emotional power window. Like if you
Mhm.
want to let somebody in, you put the there. I just went, "Arr," and the window went up. And I'm just like, and
Yeah.
I said, "You're not." I'm thinking to myself, "You're not me, and I'm not going to judge you." But part of me is saying, "How do you not feel anything? I mean, you took your kids
Right.
there." But I just shut it out because I can't control their feelings. I
Right.
I don't expect them to feel empathy like I'm feeling. Um, I don't understand it. Like how can you just,
Right.
you see these beautiful big fish just
Yeah.
dying. Um,
Yeah.
but that's
Sad.
it. I just move past it. But yeah,
Right. So you don't take it personally.
no.
You don't get triggered. You don't react. into attack mode or trying to get them on board and explaining and, or, and, you just have to let it go. I mean, everybody has the right to their own opinion. And they, and maybe a lot of times, maybe a lot of denial, or repressing, or suppressing their feelings on things and not
Mm,
really dealing with things. And it's not your job to help them with
no.
that. I mean, you're there looking for some support. And if the person doesn't, seem to care about your feelings, then it does make you question, do I really want to, keep talking to this person a lot when we don't have much in common, or they don't really seem to care about what you're
It
going
was,
through.
I'm not going to lie, it was an eye opener in terms
Mhm.
of who they are. And you just brought back a memory. There is a preserve located right next to this huge big pond. And because of where the road buckled, you can't access the preserve. So now that is shut down. It
Mhm.
wasn't, to my knowledge, damaged, but beautiful, big. There was a billionaire that lives nearby, and he dedicated tons of money to make this sanctuary. The person I'm referring to, I've been in the preserve with them, and they've walked with me and enjoyed it. So it's almost kind of like,
Oh, nice.
how do you not feel?
Part of their home.
Yeah, but whatever,
Yes.
not to judge. That's their feelings.
Yes,
That's mine.
but it's good to stay calm. I mean, there's never a reason to be reacting angrily to somebody else because you can always set a boundary. Like you said, wait a minute, this kind of makes me realize this person isn't really empathic to my feelings, so I don't know that I really want to be sharing with that person.
Well, yeah,
And got a boundary, like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Duly noted in the future, that this
uh-huh,
person doesn't possess that type of we call it a quality, what a
right,
trait, call it a trait.
right,
Um, but I guess it goes back to you can't control what you can't control. And the same thing
exactly,
with the election. You voted,
right,
so you did the best you could to control it in your way. But
right,
short of that, it's not like,
right,
the candidate does, or the when they become president, after, they're in office in January, you can't pick up the phone and say, "Hey, dude, what are you doing there?" There's no control. You just have to
right,
accept it for what it
right,
is. Is
right.
there a way to do that more easily? To just release that kind of control? Because I think many of us want to have control, and maybe that's where the feelings come into play.
Well, I think, like you're saying, that you have to identify what you actually can control. I mean, what you can control, for one, is your thoughts, and your self-talk, because what you say to yourself is going to affect how you feel, and then how you act and what's going to happen, because how you act is going to affect the situation. And if you can catch your negative thoughts and put in the positive, then and calm yourself down and just talk to yourself. It's okay. It's all going to be okay. Everyone's gone through the stuff before, and everything was fine. And soothe yourself and talk
Mhm.
to yourself positively. That's one thing you definitely can control. So to control your own mind, your own affect how that affects your feelings, so that you can then be in control of your actions, so that you can create and have a brain to create. You're not all, so upset. You've worked through some grief or whatever it is, or problem solve something, and then you can move into your own good. Those are the things you can control.
Does it help to have a home base? What do I mean by that?
Yes.
Something that comforts you, be it you go outside, you feel grounded. You go to your bedroom and watch TV. You're just in bed. And I'm not saying just,
Right.
hide under the covers, but that's your sanctuary. Maybe you
Exactly.
though finding those things that make you pay. For some people, it's going shopping, whatever it is.
Right. Yes, I'm absolutely, doing your mind, body, spirit, self-care, a couple hours a day if you can, of some things, doing, for your inner peace. I mean, if you're spiritual, it can be, prayer. If it's, Buddhist, it's meditation. It's going to that, or just breath work, mindfulness and psychology, where you're doing your breath breathing and getting yourself in a calm place. And doing, like you said, your physical, emotional too, getting outdoors, getting your exercise, raising your serotonin, getting your vitamin D, and, bringing that up, and then taking time for something that, it is mentally stimulates you, or expresses your talents, your creativity, making time for yourself, and, every day to care for you. And then no matter what's going on, wow, I'm going to have some time where I'm feeling good, taking care of myself in a healthy way. And
Hmm.
that keeps you going for sure.
What about the flip side of that? Now we're talking about being affected by something, or it could be the global situations where you have anxiety, you're sad. Let's flip it.
Right,
Anger.
right.
Now, people are angry, some, at the results of the elections. How do
Yes.
you get over that?
Right. We're circling back to working through the grief process. They're in a grief
Is
process.
that okay?
Yes.
That
And
is
keep
that is
going.
the umbrella
Yes.
here. It is no
Right.
matter what. I'm angry. I'm sad. It's all
Right. But
it's
what's under it? You're feeling sad, and basically just need to get the grief, the sad, the mourning out. And then after a while of getting it out, you start to feel better. You do move into an acceptance phase. Well, that's the way things are. And then actually good thoughts and good memories come back, or, things that you've learned, or what, how you want to move in a positive direction around the loss.
hmm.
Then so, yeah, so to just let yourself have the feelings, but also take care of yourself. Make sure you're actually helping yourself stay at an inner peace, love space, whatever that is. And
Yeah.
you're getting your acting out, and, getting and take care of you, satisfying your mind, body, spirit, nurturing yourself, self-care.
Yeah, it's interesting that so many people yesterday were so tired, of course, from the stress, anticipation, but they were up late till like 2:30 in the morning waiting
Yeah.
for the final results.
Right.
Sleep is such a big deal.
Bingo. That's perfect, Steve, because absolutely you got to think about, well, how am I going to get good sleep? If you don't have good sleep, you are going to be anxious and depressed the next day. They find that if somebody, is going to give a speech and they get kind of nervous in a day or two before they start sleeping well, they're anxious and depressed. So it's really you taking control. That's the thing, you control of your own life and the parts of your life that you can control. Like, maybe you don't, after that, you don't stay up late, or you take a nap the next day, so that you made up for the sleep. You take care of yourself to keep yourself, that you are getting your exercise, getting your peaceful nature walk, and
Sure.
taking care of yourself and getting your proper sleep. That's very important.
It's
Absolutely.
we've talked about it before, grounding, being outside, and all of
Right.
that, but I truly believe that many of us don't understand the benefits of it. And I say to my daughter all the time, go outside. It's great. It's a
Hmm.
beautiful day. Just walk. Yeah,
Hmm.
trust me on this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I experience it. And even recently, long story short, I went away 3 days on a weekend, needed it, hadn't been away. Uh, Great to re-energize and just, think and all. Come back, caught a virus. I was,
That's
bouncing
right.
about. I never get sick.
Oh,
Never get sick.
no.
I
Yes.
just don't. I haven't had fever in
Mhm.
decades, and I got one.
Mhm. Mm.
It, but I believe, and I'm in bed, going through all the motions there. I don't even know what happened to October. I look at him like it was a blur, but I really think that it was the universe's way of saying to me, you need to slow down. And I will tell you, and I had laryngitis, so I couldn't work. So I took time to kayak, get into nature and all of that. I feel calmer now than I have in a long time, where it's just like,
Right.
wow, it was kind of sucky, if you will. Couldn't work and all of that, but it made me um, realize those things. And I don't think we
Exactly.
realize it.
And I think you're bringing up a really good point that if you approach it positively, you'll create a good out of whatever situation you're in. You looked at it as a way of healing yourself instead of something terrible happened and you're upset about it and interfered with this work or whatever your negative thoughts are, or your guilt, you didn't do your work, silly stuff you shouldn't say to yourself. And instead you said, wait a minute, my immune system was kind of down. I probably need to take care of myself. I need to rest and do some healing, emotionally, physically, the whole combo. And then what gives you your natural high, which is the water and the nature and outdoors, and
Yeah.
you went with it. And then it was very healing for you. And that's what people need to go, is to take that, what's coming to them is like is an opportunity for growth. It's not problems. It's just we're either having fun or we're learning now. And what are we learning that's going to lead to fun? And that's what you did.
Yeah.
And then it was something your body's saying, you need this time, and you did it. Good job.
And thank you. It's finding what works for you, because what works for you is not going to work for me, and vice versa. Maybe it will, but it's identifying.
It's good ideas. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Always great talking with you.
Great talking to you.
I'm glad we dug into this, because even though the election will come and go and people will get back to center, it's the baseline here is stuff is going to come up. It's going to affect us. Again, there could be another hurricane. There could be
Right.
turmoil around the world. We don't realize it, but we internalize it, and it affects us. You have some wonderful books out there, and under the pen name AP Filosa. How do we find out more about that, Ann?
The easiest way is just to Google Psychology Today. It's a directory for psychologists, and look up Ann Creekmore, and then my link is just right there. You can just click it and go, and it'll have my phone numbers and my website about my whole person health therapy practice as a licensed clinical psychologist, and have everything you need, hopefully.
Yeah, you're not alone. You're not alone. People deal with this all the time, and for that, we thank you for being there. Thanks for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much.
We're coming
Really
back next.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.